Hey parents, this is Chad Holmes, high school pastor here at North Coast Church in Fallbrook, and this is your weekly recap to let you know what we've done on the weekend, and hopefully you can build off of that at home this week. This weekend we talked about a principle that I like to call the rubber band spirituality, and looking at just that kind of metaphor for how our spiritual lives are impacted in giving us direction as a high school student. And so there's kind of three parts to that illustration. The first is to shoot a rubber band, quite literally, you have to first pull back. And in our lives spiritually, I think a lot of times when we want to find a direction, first step in that is oftentimes kind of pulling back and creating space for God to speak. And maybe if we're just stressed out and busy, there isn't enough room or there isn't enough quietness in our life to really hear what God wants us to do or wants us to be. So first, pull back. Second is you got to aim, right? And I think that once we are able to pull back and open ourselves up, aiming, I talked about this weekend, may be a process of looking back at what God has done, maybe looking into how God has gifted you, and to give you that right focus of where you're going to go and what you're going to do and what God has for you. And then the third part is to fire. And, a part that maybe some of us oftentimes fail to do. We fail to kind of really go after that which God has put on our hearts. And so that kind of three-step principle, we talked about this weekend, and that was a shorter time because I wanted to leave time for students to really be able to do that in our service this week. And so what I had them do was kind of do a little survey of where they were at in their own lives, where they felt like spiritually God had maybe moved or where they were going, or where maybe they need to be able to pull back to be able to hear God. And then we did also gave them with something to leave with this week to kind of work through some of those things and to look at their small group and to look at volume as a whole. If they're a part of this church and the church is just simply them coming together, then what is my role in volume? What are we doing here that I need to be involved with? And so we use that time to just be real hands-on. So that's what we talked about this weekend. Maybe a great question for you to ask your student is just directly, where do you think God wants to use you now? Whether it's in volume or on campus or with a friend, how does God want to use you now? I think so oftentimes high schoolers don't feel like it's time for them to really do stuff. They need to grow up first and have fun, and then they'll do stuff. But if we get our students moving and working and seeing God work through them, man, they are going to do some incredible things now and in the future. So hopefully you guys can have a great conversation about that, and we'll see your student grow up being used by God even in high school here. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next time.